Hello Internet, and welcome to VGC Basics Part 2. Today, we're going to be talking about items. Items are very important in any competitive game, and today we're going to make a tier list because why not? So, the categories are from the top, which is the best, items you want on every team. Second category is yeah. Third category is okay, I see you. Okay, so not so good, but not so bad either. Fourth category is meh. And the fifth category is bruh, why you use these? Because some of these items are just totally trash in the competitive game of Pokemon. So, today, let's start with the simplest items, and that would be the choice items. So we got Choice Specs, Choice Band, and Choice Scarf. These three items are very simple in that they boost your special attack by 1.5 times, or your attack, or your speed. But they only limit you to one move. So you can only use one move, but it boosts your special attack, or speed by 1.5 times. So they have good uses, so I think maybe I'll put it in the mid tier because I don't love using them, and honestly in this metagame they're not super good and you don't always want to limit yourself into one singular move. The next item we'll be talking about is the Assault Vest. Assault Vest is probably an item that you want on every single team because its drawbacks aren't that bad. What it does is it multiplies your special defense by 1.5 times, but it only allows you to use attacking moves. And honestly, that's not so bad of a drawback, so therefore I would put it in the S tier. And personally, I use an Assault Vest on basically every team I have because it is so good. Next item we'll be talking about is the Air Balloon. The Air Balloon is an item that you use to avoid ground attacks, and in singles they actually use it to also avoid spikes. So you could put it on an electric type Pokemon, let's say, and then you would be able to dodge ground type attacks, which are super effective. But the drawback is if you get hit, then the Air Balloon pops and then you have no item. So it has its uses, but it's really not that good. Next item we'll talk about is the Citrus Berry. Citrus Berry is very good, personally, I think, because what it does is it heals 25% of your maximum HP when you reach 50% or lower. And it's very good for Pokemon that you want to stick around on the field for a long time. Usually you use it on a Pokemon that's more bulky because you want to keep it on the field for longer. Next item is the Agua Berry, which is one of the 5 or 6, I think, different berries that heal 33% when you reach 25% or less HP. And these are very good for very bulky Pokemon that you want to just stay on the field for longer. The next item we'll be talking about is the Lumberry. The Lumberry is a berry that cures all status ailments. So that means burn, poison, toxic, paralyze, or sleep. So it has its uses. I think I'm going to put it in mid tier because it has its uses, but it's not super good. So, because a lot of the times, you really want to use a different item instead of preventing status, even though status could really hinder your Pokemon. So Pokemon like Gyarados run Lumberry a lot. The next item I'll be talking about is the single status berries, like the Chesto Berry. Chesto Berry happens to be for sleep, and then there are other berries that only cure paralysis, or only cure burn, or only cure poison. So they're okay, but unless you're running like a rest sleep talk thing Pokemon, or you're running a rest Pokemon, you don't really want to use the singular status berries. You should really just use a Lumberry. Next item we'll be talking about is the Big Root. It's okay. It has its uses. It increases the power of draining moves like Giga Drain and Draining Kiss. by 30%. So 30% of, let's say, Giga Drain is 70 base power. So 30% would make it 94 base power. So it's not so good, but you could use it in very specific situations. The next two items are totally trash. This is the binding band. What that does is moves like Fire Spin. It makes them do more damage per turn. And this is the Grip Claw, and it makes it last. It makes those moves like Wrap and Bind and Fire Spin last longer. So honestly, I haven't seen any Wrap type moves in the meta. Technically, the Binding Band you could use with Gmax Centiskorch's signature move, Gmax Centinferno, because it does cause all the Pokemon to go into Fire Spin, and it would do 1/6 of the max HP instead of 1/8 each turn, but it's really not that good. Next item we're going to talk about is Bright Powder. Bright Powder, what it does is it increases your evasion by 10%. So the only time that you would actually use Bright Powder is if you're running a Pokemon in weather that increases their evasion already, like Snow Cloak or Sand Cloak. And that's very niche, and you wouldn't really ever, I don't know, I wouldn't use it. Next item we'll be talking about is for sure S tier. This is the weakness policy, and what it does is when you get hit by a super effective attack, then your special attack and attack go up by 2 stages, therefore doubling your attack stats. So that's very good, and there are a lot of strategies based solely around weakness policy because it's so powerful to double your attack stats. The next item is the blunder policy, and I'm gonna put it in the meh category because what it does is if you miss an attack, then it increases your speed by 2 stages. So unless you're running like a Hustle Dracozolt, then it's not that good. But it still has its uses, so that's why I put it in the meh and not the higher, and not the bruh why you use these category. The next item I'm gonna say is the eject button. What the eject button does is when you get hit by attack, you automatically get switched out. Now, the main use for this item is actually with Whimsicott, and because Whimsicott has Prankster, and Prankster increases the priority of status moves, meaning non-damaging moves, and so Whimsicott would use Switcheroo, which switches items, give the opposing Pokemon an eject button, and then you would be able to use a priority attack or just a regular attack if you are faster, and therefore kick out the Pokemon and switch in another Pokemon that your opponent might not necessarily want to have out on the field at that moment. The next item is totally trash. The Utility Umbrella blocks weather conditions from affecting your Pokemon, but it doesn't actually work in the way you think, so it's not even a good item. And you should never use it, even in singles. The next item is a ring target. What the ring target does is you have to switch it to a Pokemon, and then you would be able to hit it with moves that you would usually not be able to hit it with. So you would switch a ring target to a ghost type, and then you would be able to hit it with normal type moves or fighting type moves, which is super situational, and it's only good in meme strategies, so that's why it's in the bottom tier. The next item is a zoom lens, and it's trash. What it does is it increases it increases the accuracy of your moves if you go last. So unless you're specifically running an analytic, meaning an analytic Magnezone or something like that. Analytic is an ability that gives you a 1.3 times bonus if you go last. So unless you're running an analytic, and even so, it's not that good. That's why it's in bottom tier. You should never use that. Next item is the wide lens. What the wide lens does is it increases your accuracy of moves by 10%. So what that means is that if you have a 90% accurate move, then increase it by 10%. So that would mean that it changes it to 99% of the time your move will go. So this item has been used mainly on Venusaur, because Venusaur uses Sleep Powder, and Sleep Powder is only 75% accurate, so it would increase it to 82.5%. So it's pretty good. I've also seen it used on things like Milotic for Hypnosis. Hypnosis is only 60% accurate, so if you use the wide lens, then it's 66% accurate. So it has its uses, but it's not super good. It's mid-tier. Next item is Throat Spray. Throat Spray is an okay item. What it does is when you use a sound-based move, it increases your special attack by 1 stage, which is pretty good, but it hasn't seen a lot of usage. The only usage I've really seen is on Hyper Voice Pixelate Sylveon, where it would just spam Hyper Voice and then increase its special attack. I've also seen it used on Primarina and Toxtricity, but it's not that good because not a lot of Pokemon get sound-based moves, so it really only applies to a few Pokemon. The next item is Eject Pack, and what it does is when your stats get lowered, then you automatically switch out. This item was added in Generation 8, and I saw it and it looked cool, but in reality it's not actually useful. The next item is very, very niche, and I'm gonna put it in the meh category because it's not that good, because it only applies to one Pokemon, and that Pokemon is Pikachu. This item is called the Light Ball, and what it does is it doubles your attack and special attack, but only for Pikachu. So it's not that good unless you're running a fully offensive G-Max Pikachu, which I've seen, but most of them run Focus Sash, which is the item that we'll talk about now. Focus Sash, honestly, is for sure an A-tier item. I'm tempted to put it in the items you want on every team, but you don't necessarily need it. Nah, I'll put it up there. What the Focus Sash does is, if you were to get knocked out by one attack, meaning a one-hit KO, you live on 1 health instead. So if your opponent is expecting to knock your Pokemon out and then you survive on 1 health, then it surprises them, and then you can get an attack off, potentially, because they were expecting to kill you and then they did. The next item we'll be talking about is the Focus Band, the Focus Sash's counterpart, and honestly this is a meme item. What it does is it has a 10% chance of saving you from a move that would have KO'd you. So it's very, very much a meme item, and you should never use it, honestly. Next item we'll be talking about is the Eviolite. I think I'm going to put it in the S tier because Eviolite is pretty broken, and the main 2 abusers of Eviolite are Dusclops and Porygon 2, because what the Eviolite does is, if you are not in a fully evolved Pokemon, then your special defense and defense get multiplied by 1.5 times. So things like Dusclops, which have a 130 base special defense and defense, and Porygon, which have an base 80, I believe, but a higher HP stat. So those things become extremely bulky, and they're very hard to knock out. They're very good support mods, and they also set up Trick Room, which I will talk about in a later video. The next item we'll be talking about is the Expert Belt. The Expert Belt is, I'd say, mid-tier, because it's kind of niche. What it does is it gives you a 1.2 times boost on super effective attacks, so it's okay. I mean, you could use it on a Pokemon that has 4 attacking moves and no protect, so that you have a range of coverage. But it has its uses. I've used a Cinderace with it, and it works pretty well because Cinderace has a lot of coverage and hits a lot of things for super effective with the moves that it gets. The next item we'll be talking about is Flame Orb. What the Flame Orb does, I think I'm putting it in mid-tier. It has its uses, but you really only use it in one type of set. What a Flame Orb does is it burns you after 1 turn on the field. So when everybody does their turn, then you get burned. So usually you can run a Guts Pokemon, which ups your attack by 1.5 times, I believe, when you have a status ailment. And Therefore, instead of getting burned by something else, you would get burned by your own flame orb and then get a boost in attack. Next item is the toxic orb, and the toxic orb does the same thing as the flame orb and inflicts the toxic status on your Pokemon. And the bad thing about it is that the toxic orb, every turn you're out, the toxic damage stacks, so it doubles. So it's not very good, and the only time you would really use it is when you can't burn your Pokemon. The only time I've seen it is on Flareon, because Flareon gets the Guts ability, but since it's a fire type, you can't burn it, so therefore I use the Toxic Orb, but it's really not that good. The next item, I'm going to put in A tier. No, you know what? I think I'm going to do this. Rearrange it a little bit. I think the choice items are really good. And the Lumberry... No, I'll keep the Lumberry down here. Because these choice items are very good because they increase your attack and special attack and speed by 1.5 times, and that can make or break a game if your opponent doesn't know that you have it. Anyway, next item is the seeds. You have 4 seeds. You have the Grassy Seed, Electric Seed, Psychic Seed, and Misty Seed. And what they do is they increase one of your defense stats in that specific terrain. So Grassy Seed and Electric Seed increase defense in their respective terrains, and Misty Seed and Psychic Seed increase their special defense in their respective terrains when you throw out that Pokemon. So I've seen Grassy Seed Rillaboom. I've seen Unburden. Unburden is an ability that doubles your speed when you lose your item. So something like a Grassy Seed, which you lose once you touch the terrain on the ground, is very good. So Pokemon like Hawlucha and Pokemon like Drifblim, yeah, those 2 Pokemon have Unburden, and they're extremely fast once they activate their ability, and therefore they're very good when they use things like Seeds or Focus Sash, items that they can lose and therefore double their speed. Next item I'll be talking about is the Iron Ball. Iron Ball is what it does is it lowers your speed by 50%, and if you switch it to a flying type, then it'll allow ground types to hit that Pokemon. So it's a very niche item. If you want a fast Pokemon to be used in Trick Room where the speed order is reversed. So if you want a slow Pokemon that has, let's say, 70 base speed, so you could reduce it to 35 base speed with the Iron Ball and make it effective in Trick Room. But I haven't seen any usage, and it's not that good in competitive doubles. Next item I'll be looking at is these items. These items are the attack berries. This one is called the Key Berry, and what it does is it increases your attack. It increases your defense. Sorry, when you're hit by a physical move. So honestly, with the addition of Dynamax moves and increasing your stats, why would you waste your item slot on a berry like that? It's really not worth it. Next item is the King's Rock. King's Rock, what it does is it increases your chance to flinch by 10%, and the only real use you have for these in competitive is if you use a Skill Link Pokemon, which increases the moves that hit multiple times to the maximum amount. So Pokemon like Cinccino or Cloyster have Skill Link, and they use moves like Bullet Seed and Rock Blast, and if you hit all 5 times, you actually have a 41% chance of flinching. What flinching does is it stops your opponent from moving at all, so it's very, very good. The next item is totally trash, and it's the Lagging Tail. What it does is it causes your Pokemon to always move last, so unless you really, really want to use it, it's not a good item. It's just not a good item. The next item is the Leak. I'll put it in mid tier. Even though it only applies to one Pokemon line, and that is the Farfetch Surfetch line, what it does is it's really good. What it does is it increases your critical hit ratio by 2 stages. So let's go over here. All moves have a base stage 1 of crit ratio. What that means is that it has a 4.17% of critting. Now, if you increase that by 3, then you always have a 50% chance to crit, because you get +2 from the Leak. And moves that already have a high critical hit ratio are already at 2. So 2 plus 4 is always 100% crit rate. So Pokemon like Surfetch'd that use the leak. Well, Surfetch'd is the only Pokemon that uses the leak, so yeah, obviously. But Surfetch'd, when using Leaf Blade, always crits. So it's a good Pokemon to have. And if you use something like Gmax Machamp to increase the critical hit ratio, if you increase it by one more stage, then all of your moves will be critting with Surfetch'd. So maybe in a later video I'll make a team around that, but for now let's continue. The next item is Leftovers. I think Leftovers are a really good item, especially in singles. In doubles, they're okay, so I'm going to put them in mid-tier. Same thing with the Black Sludge, because the Black Sludge and Leftovers do the same thing. What they do is they heal you 1/16 of your maximum HP. And the Black Sludge can only be used by poison types, or else if you're not a poison type, then your HP will decrease by 1/16 every turn. The next item is a worse version of these two, and that is called the Shell Bell. What the Shell Bell does is it heals you 1/8 of the damage you dealt to a Pokemon. So it's just a worse version of Leftovers or Black Sludge, and it's just not worth it. The next item is for sure S tier item. Next item is a Life Orb. What the Life Orb does is it gives you a 1.3 times boost in all your moves, special or physical, doesn't matter. And it takes away 1/10 of your HP, of your maximum HP. So honestly, it's a good trade-off for sweeping Pokemon that are all-out attackers and that are fast, because it just increases your damage output with not a lot of drawback. The next item I'm going to put in A tier, and that is the Light Clay. What it does is it increases Light Screen, Reflect, or Aurora Veil from 5 turns to 8 turns. And what those 3 moves do is Reflect decreases physical moves by 50% for 5 turns, but with Light Clay 8 turns. Light Screen decreases the power of special moves by 50% for 5 turns or 8 turns. And Aurora Veil actually does both. And that's why Gmax Lapras is so common, because it can use its signature Gmax move, Gmax Resonance, and then get a free Aurora Veil up, which basically decreases all moves power on the opposite side for 5 turns, and potentially 8 turns if you use the Light Clay, and that's why it's so good. Next item is a Metronome. The Metronome is not very good, especially in competitive Pokemon, because what it does is it increases the power of moves if you use them in succession. So the more you use a move in succession, the more powerful it will be. The only real use I would see for this is maybe a Guerrilla Tactics, Galarian, Darumaka, or Darmanitan, because they have the ability Guerrilla Tactics, which basically acts as a choice band, but it's their ability. So if you're locked into one move, you might as well hit harder every time you use it. So, it's not that good. Next items are the Muscle Band and the Wise Glasses. What these items do is they increase your physical or special moves by 1.1 times. So these are items that if you really don't have any other options, you could use them, but they're not super good. The next items are better though, I would say, and therefore I'll put them in the mid tier. The next items are the Incense, and the Type Boosters. So this is the Mystic Water, and this is the Sea Incense. They happen to do the same thing because they both increase water type damage moves by 1.2 times. So, but they have one of these for every type, so you can increase any type of move. They're okay. I've seen a lot of Grassy Seed Rillaboom just to increase Grassy Glide's damage output, but they're not amazing. If you need to use them, you could use them. The next item is Normal Gem. I'm going to put it in the meh category. What it does is it increases, when you use a normal type move, it will use the gem and therefore increase the damage output of the normal type move once by 1.5 times, I believe. And the only real usage I've seen for this is when you use Sylvali and Explosion. Because Sylvali has the most powerful explosion because it gets stab, same type attack bonus because it's a normal type, and therefore Explosion is a normal type move. These three next items are the herbs. This is the mental herb. I'm gonna put them all in. Yeah, I'm gonna put them all in the mid tier because they're okay and they have their uses, but some of them are broken sometimes. So this is the mental herb. What it does is it stops any moves from limiting your move choice. So things like taunt or imprison or something like that. So the mental herb would activate and you would still be able to use your move even if otherwise you would be limited. The next item is the white herb. What it does is if your stats get lowered, then it resets them. And that's an okay item. The only time I've actually seen it in VGC is Blastoise using Shell Smash, because Shell Smash increases your attack, special attack, and speed by 2 stages, but decreases your defense and special defense by 1 stage. So using Shell Smash and then a white herb would clear the minus defense and special defense. The next item is a power herb. What that does is it turns two moves that would usually take 2 turns into 1 turn. So let's say you use Fly and you have a power herb, then Fly would only take 1 turn and it would happen immediately instead of the next turn. The next item I'm going to say is in the mid tier because it's one of those items that only applies to one Pokemon. This is the Thick Club, and what it does is it doubles Marowak's attack stat. So Marowak goes from base 80 to base 160, and that's very, very good, especially when Marowak is under Trick Room, because Trick Room reverses the speed order, as I said, and Marowak is very slow, so it would go first with its huge attack stat. But since it only applies to one Pokemon, I'm still putting it in mid tier. The next item is the Protective Pads, and it's not good. I don't know why you would use it. What it does is it protects you from physical contact move damage. And the only Pokemon that has physical contact damage is Sharpedo and Ferrothorn right now. Being Iron Barbs with Ferrothorn and Rough Skin with Sharpedo. And that's such a niche thing to avoid, so it's not even worth using. The next item is the Quick Claw. Quick Claw I'm going to put in the meh category because what it does is it gives you a 20% chance to actually move first. It doesn't matter about speed order. And the only Pokemon that I would see you using this on is actually Galarian Slowbro, because it has the ability Quick Draw, which essentially is a Quick Claw as an ability. So you actually have I wrote this down. You have a 36% chance when using the Quick Claw with Quick Draw Slowbro to actually go first. So it gives you 1 out of 3 times to actually go first when using this with Galarian Slowbro, but that's really the only time I would see using that. The next item is the red card. It has its uses, but I honestly never see it. I'm not going to put it in the garbage category because it's I don't know. Yeah, I'll put it in the garbage category. I've never seen it used in VGC. What it does is when a Pokemon hits you, that Pokemon gets switched out, and then the red card is consumed. So if you have a Pokemon that you don't like, and then that Pokemon hits you, it gets sent out, and you stay in. So it's not that good. Next item is the Rocky Helmet. I'm gonna put it in the meh category because it does have its uses, but the only time I've ever seen it on is Corviknight or Ferrothorn, because those 2 Pokemon are very bulky and they are physically defensive. And what the Rocky Helmet does is if you get hit with a physical move that makes contact, then the Pokemon that attacked you will lose 1/6 of its max HP. So it's pretty good, but it really only has a few uses on a few Pokemon. The next item is Room Service, and what it does is when you enter Trick Room, it lowers your speed by 1 stage. Now I don't know why you would waste an item slot on this, so I think it's really not that good. Next items I'm going to talk about, because this represents a bunch of items, but I can't put them all here because there are so many, is the type berries. This is a Roselli berry, and what it does is it decreases the power of a super effective fairy type attack by 50%, and there is one berry for each type. So you would be able to decrease one move by a super effective whatever type for by 50%. So these berries are pretty useful. So if you have something like Ferrothorn or Tyranitar, which are 4 times weak to something, so you could use a berry to mitigate the damage from one move. Okay. Next item is the safety goggles. Safety goggles I'm going to put in the A tier because safety goggles actually got way better when they added the Isle of Armor and Amoonguss. Amoonguss is a Pokemon that uses Spore to put Pokemon to sleep, but safety goggles, what it does is it ignores powder moves and ignores damage from sand and hail. So you usually put it on something like Togekiss or Indeedee Female, which have Follow Me, and then you could just follow me against an Amoonguss and not get put to sleep, which is very useful. The next item I'm going to put in mid tier, and this is the Scope Lens. What the Scope Lens does is it increases your critical hit stage by 1, and Pokemon like Togekiss, which have Super Luck, which also increases your critical hit stage by 1, therefore have, like we said, 1 with the Scope Lens and 1 with Super Luck, and therefore would crit 50% of the time. So Crit Kiss, as it's called, is very popular right now, and because what critical hits do is they attack through stat buffs, and even if your attack is lower, it'll still do 1.5 times damage. So crits are very good. Razor Claw also does the same thing, but also it's used as an evolution item for Sneasel into Weavile. So yeah. The next item we'll be talking about is the weather rocks. There's the smooth rock, the heat rock, the damp rock, and the icy rock. And what these do is they actually increase the duration of weather. So things like sand, hail, snow, sun, and rain from 5 turns to 8 turns. I've seen them used a lot in singles, but in doubles they're not so prevalent because usually you want to use something else like one of these or one of these. The next item we're going to use is the Terrain Extender. What it does is it increases the duration of terrain. Just like the Smooth Rock increases the duration of sand from 5 to 8 turns, the Terrain Extender will increase the terrain from 5 to 8 turns also. So it has its uses, but it's really not that good, and you'd rather use something else like one of these. The next item is totally trash, and this includes a bunch of items. There's the Snowball, the Cell Battery, the Luminous Moss, and one other. But basically, they're very situational, and if you get hit by a certain move, then one stat increases by 1 stage, so it's not even worth an item slot. The next items are the berries, the pinch berries, and these are different from these pinch berries. These pinch berries heal, but these pinch berries activate when you're 25% or less, and what they do is they increase 1 of your stats. It's not even really worth it, so you might as well use one of these or one of these if you want a berry on your Pokemon. Next item, and the last item, is one I just wanted to mention, and that is the Amulet Coin. I would put the Amulet Coin in items you want on every team, but since we're actually talking about competitive, I'm going to put it in the why would you use this on a team. But basically, this item, the Amulet Coin, doubles your coins, your money that you make after a battle. So, as a Pokemon player, I would go through the Pokemon Champions Cup and use the Amulet Coin on my Gmax Meowth, and then get double the amount of coins. So that's just a meme pick that I decided to add last because I thought it was funny. But anyway, I think that's all for today. Like, subscribe, and share. Hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll be back for more next time. See ya. Now, I don't know why you would ever want to do this in doubles, because switching out when you don't necessarily want to is a bad thing. And if your Pokemon does something that you're not expecting and then lowers your stats and you get kicked out and you don't even get to move, that's really, really bad. So, I don't know. I never